Welcome to the Behind the Counter Show. My name is Vince Bellitti, and this is James Park. We're here with Gasper's Best and HB Pharmacy. At the pharmacy, James is a pharmacist, I'm a personal trainer, nutrition coach, and being involved with healthcare for so long, we've noticed that there's not a lot of transparency anymore, and there's a lot of formality in healthcare that kind of makes it, impractical, I guess, from a patient's perspective on how to be healthier on a day-to-day basis. So we started this show to be more transparent, kind of take you literally behind the counter to show you our perspective, a candid perspective on what it's like to be healthier on a day-to-day basis, with season 1 of this show relating specifically to stress and anxiety. I already messed up and it's episode 1. That is not a good sign, but we will persevere. Anyway, we are coming here today and we figured for this first episode we would talk about some myths and misconceptions about stress and anxiety at a high level, if you will. Kind of get some clarity on that. And honestly, some of this stuff was a little bit new to me and interesting to me as well, you know? So, James, to get us started off here, what exactly is stress and why do we care about it?
We say it all the time.
Yeah.
I'm stressed out. I'm so stressed. It's almost, probably if you're out there, whoever's watching the show, almost every one of you probably say that almost every single day.
Yeah.
Stress can be many different things. As a physical coach here, that you can probably relate it as more physical
there's
form of
lifting
stress,
weights is stress
right?
too, even. Yeah.
A lot of times we're talking about mental stress.
Sure.
It's stress is more of that. I don't really think I have to define stress. I think we all know what stress is. However, what I like to emphasize actually today is more about why is stress bad for your body specifically. We know stress is bad, but why? In actual physiological form. So when you're stressed out with the mental stress, your body goes into that fight or flight response. Mm-hmm. That's pretty commonly known, right? A lot of times that there is that cortisol level that creeps up and up and up, other than the adrenaline, which is we're all familiar with, right? Cortisol level also creeps up and up and up and up in order to fight against, I guess, a stressor. Mental stressor, I guess. Mm-hmm. However, when we are constantly stressed, that cortisol level just stays elevated. And that high cortisol level is actually pretty detrimental to our body. It can lead to weight gain, anxiety, sleeplessness, and many different physiological, just in physical form, you feel
Right.
So,
it's one word for it, I
right,
guess.
it really is. That's the reason, actually, if you were to put a specific culprit on it, I would definitely say the cortisol is a main target that we want to, fight against.
Sure.
When it comes to stress.
And I think an important point of clarification as well, we're all different people. You watching at home, you sitting here, me sitting here. Stress is not, or let me rephrase, a stressor is not necessarily a physical thing.
Sure.
It's your reaction to that physical thing.
Right.
Because right now, someone could be sitting here saying something to disrupt our day or disrupt our video, and you can sit there and say, oh, okay, I don't really care. Even if it annoys you, maybe you just don't care about it. Mm-hmm. And to me, oh my God, that is causing me a significant amount of anxiety because it's my reaction to it. That is what stress is, or how it's kind of, displayed in a physical sense. It's our reaction to our environment in whatever capacity.
I think everybody can relate to that. However, it's very difficult for you to notice that to yourself.
Totally true.
Let's just say you start the day, right? If you go to work at 8 o'clock and, you're just bothered by someone that was driving pretty rough on the road.
Right.
And you walk in, you spill your coffee, all that stuff throughout the day. And let's just say 5 o'clock comes around and you feel like, oh my God, the world is against me today,
Right.
And if you kind of dial it back, it's really how you respond to all those specific incidents. And let's just say if you're on a day off, per se, and if you're just driving casually down the road, if same exact situation happened, would you be that upset? Were you really upset because you're maybe late for work? Maybe you had a long day in front of you, or we're just plain Monday, right?
Right.
So it's that response that what we are trying to, you have to try to think about, because not all stress are equal.
Sure.
And everybody reacts differently. So, that's the first thing that you kind of tell yourself, okay, how am I responding to this stress? And am I doing it, in a nice, healthy fashion?
Sure. And here's an interesting take on that too, because now that we've defined stress as your response, right? in theory, and this would piss me off if someone did it to me, but in theory, someone could come up to me when I'm feeling stressed and anxious and say, this is just your reaction to it, just react differently.
Right.
As if, oh, well, excuse me, let me just react differently and go to the react differently tree and pull off some react differentlys, and here, I'll react differently now. You know, it's a lot easier said than done to do that. So for example, one of my friends is moving right now, and I've offered to help him and all kinds of stuff like that, right? He is very go with the flow, and I am hyper organized with my time. And everyone's different in different ways, but I need to have, oh, I'm doing this that day, I'm doing this that day. Okay, I've got a schedule, right? I'm a schedule-oriented, task list-oriented person, and deviating from that to a significant degree causes me stress.
Right.
So he's sitting there and I'm trying to help him, and I'm like, help me help you, help me help you.
Right.
And he's just like, it's fine, we'll figure it out. And I'm getting a ton of stress and anxiety from that. And he could just sit there and say, just be more relaxed like me, man. It's my move, my problem. But that's a lot easier said than done, because that's just not how my brain works.
But you have a point there.
Yeah.
And this is something that we all do constantly without really realizing it. In the back of our minds, we don't want to be stressed out.
Right.
We're all scared of it. So as Vince just mentioned, that he is hyper-organizer. So he would try to organize. If you foresee a stress possibly can happen, then he will work on it so that he can de-stress or not get stressed as much. And that's what we do, something constantly on a daily basis. And that's what we have to focus on. And it's not about, just don't get stressed out. Just don't react that way. It's more of, if you ever want to talk to somebody about it possibly, then you would, how can I approach this differently so that
it's
in
all
the
about
future,
the approach.
right? In the future, if I am faced with same possible problem or possible trauma, then how can I react to that differently?
Yeah.
So finding that, I guess preparation is very important.
Right.
When people go out to the gym, right? The first thing people should do is stretch, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of our stress that we go through.
Story checks out.
Right. A lot of story that we do every single day here. All the stress that we get, we can actually prepare for it.
Sure.
We just have to take time to find that moment. And we would love to discuss with you guys as well. So definitely,
Yeah,
leave some
I think
and
the way I look at it too, and it's almost like the easy way out is never the best way out,
Absolutely.
Like even here as, a pharmacist, or we recommend products that are great for helping to manage stress and anxiety. However, if you don't change your approach or aren't self-aware or understand the circumstances and say, hey, I know I'm going to get stressed out in these situations, so I'm going to plan around that and try to organize myself as best I can, blah, 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 or whatever it is, depending on your stressor, that is maybe the harder solution. It takes more work and it takes a little reflection, but that is ultimately the best solution more than any product. Even a lot of the ones that we recommend can help you cope with it for sure, but ultimately you've got to make the effort to learn for yourself how you're stressed, and whether that's therapy, whether that's just little self-evaluation on your own, those are ultimately the ways that will help when it comes to stress and anxiety.
That's our goal as a HP pharmacist and Gaspar's Best as well, that we always like to talk about is specifically taking a step back and trying to see that big picture. Just with stress alone, if you didn't get any good night's sleep, right? And if that's been happening for 3-4 days, right? You'll be stressed over littlest thing possible on a daily basis, right?
Sure.
Let's just say you were drinking, and you're drinking, try to cope with that stress, and obviously, unfortunately, that creates a vicious cycle where you don't actually get good night's sleep because of the alcohol. You used to work out on a daily basis or most days of the week, and you stop doing that because of your other stresses. So we have to. Sometimes that simple correction and that one little tick somewhere that can also create a positive cycle. I mean, as a pharmacist, if I was someone to come to me, hey, is there a pill for stress? I can probably say yes. There are probably things that can help you with cope with the stress. Specific with cortisol, as we mentioned cortisol before, there are supplements to lower the cortisol, or there are pure medications that we will talk about during our show this season. There are medications out there to just legit help with depression, anxiety, and all that things. Now, but that's not our first goal.
Sure.
And that's why we always want to talk about what actually stress is. That's not, and we don't really want to try to give out more of the pharmacological option first. Let's just having this conversation sometimes make us feel a lot better as well.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah,
sometimes just talking it out, and everyone varies, but for me, talking it out helps. Now, to dial it back a second too, what's your take on this? So I am a type A person. So I feel a lot of times, like whether it was years ago when I was back in college or even, in the working world now, I feel like sometimes when I have a bunch of stuff on my plate or when I have a little bit of pressure, I'm at my best and I'm kind of, firing on all cylinders mentally and I'm working well. And there are times when I feel the opposite, when I've got nothing going on, I feel lethargic or lazy. So in theory, that's stress, right? So is there a sweet spot where, varying person to person, obviously, but is there a sweet spot for each person individually where you are at your best in terms of receiving stress, if you will?
I think that's a very controversial topic, actually, right? Because some won't believe in such thing as sweet spot in stress. Some people would just say, well, stress just is bad, you know? And I guess scientifically, it kind of makes sense just to brand it as a bad thing. However, there is also a different literature possibly saying, let's just say if you exercise, if you give your body some stress, right? By working out, right? 30 minutes, most days a week, that actually will physiologically lower your cortisol level at night. So in that sense, I guess that was a good stress, right?
Sure.
So it's depending on how we approach it.
Right.
And what you mentioned right there as well, as we go back to what we said, it's about perception. The fact that nothing is there kind of stresses you out a little bit.
Yeah, true.
It's about the perception of that. Sometimes I think lately, especially how everything is moving so quickly, we're addicted to stress sometimes. That's how I feel
totally
like as
feel
well.
Like that too. Yeah.
And some people, I definitely have some friends who cope with stress by adding different type of work, and just adding on and piling on. And the same thing happened here. We do it all the time as well.
Sure.
We come up with one project. While we're pushing the one project, we add, this is a good idea too. We throw another, and all of a sudden we have 10,000 things that we're doing at at one point, right?
Right.
And again, with that sweet spot in physiological sense, I do, up to a point, I do agree with there is a possibility on that.
Sure.
But I think the focus we're trying to make overall is that let's try to approach, even if it's specific stress, from different angle.
Right.
Put yourself as a third person and try to approach it a little differently so that
Right.
we can figure out a different way of dealing with it.
I guess it depends on how you define it too, right?
Yeah.
Let's call it a goal or a task. Is that a motivator or a stressor?
Or
and
stimulus.
I've seen it defined. Yeah, right. I've seen it defined different ways, and I guess it all depends on how you define it. But what is the point where your reaction changes?
Right.
And at that point, when your reaction changes, it's gone from a motivator to a stressor.
Right.
So I guess it's all based on your reaction.
Or
then,
playing with words, even, right?
Sure.
One specific
It's all semantics,
thing.
but
Right. One specific thing you see, oh wow, I'm going to work at that. I'm going to get that done. And someone might say completely differently. Oh my God, I have other work to do right now.
Right.
And again, same thing. It's about how you're approaching it. I think overall goal that we try to have is stress. It's inevitable. We're gonna have it all the time, no matter where we run away to. We're still gonna have that stress.
And even if it ebbs, it will flow.
It definitely will. Absolutely will.
Or maybe the other way around. I forget which one.
But and again, we're trying to dial it back to the same point. We have to find almost different ways, and it might take 10 different tries, 100 different tries, or we might have to shape up a little differently to approach a certain stress. And again, it's all about perception, and that's what we have to go by.
Totally. Cool. So hope you guys enjoyed that discussion and found it helpful. If you want to join the conversation as well, as always you'll learn, feel free to comment below or comment when we share this kind of stuff online too. And of course, we're here to help as well. Like James said, a lot of this is dealing with your own individualized stressors and that kind of stuff too. So if you have any questions about that, you can find our contact information at hbpharmacy.com or gaspersbest.com. Thank you for checking out season 1 of Behind the Counter, and we'll be back with the next episode, and we'll be rocking and rolling away on this season of Behind the Counter. Thanks.
Thank you.